We're here with Matteo Gravner. This is, of course, the Italian Wine Podcast on the Road series. Ooh. So, Matteo, listen, we're here. Where are we? Explain to us where we are.
Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
We are in Rung. This is our biggest vineyard. We are about 400 meters from the winery. Altogether, we have almost 8 hectares here, mainly Ribolla and a little part of Pignolo, which is our Rosso Breg wine. In Rung, you can see what is our idea about vineyard, which means that it's not only vine. We have a lot of different trees. In between, we have many artificial nests for birds, and we have the first pond we ever made. From this, we started making ponds in all our vineyards. We believe that we have to give back something to the nature. Nature is giving us everything we have, and some of the things we try to return, if possible, to the nature. This is not a natural environment, of course, because it has been made by the humans. But what we try to do is to bring the grapes or the vines to be able to grow in the best way, and in order to produce high quality grapes. This makes our work in the cellar much easier, because in bringing quality grapes means that you almost don't touch them in the cellar. For us, this vineyard is very important because it was the first ever. Because the vineyard just in front of us was the first. My grandfather started working in 1901. And then
1901. 1901.
Yes. And Josko restored it in the early 2000, and it's the continuity, the work from the whole family made. And I poured you Ribolla 2012, and because it's from this vineyard, and I wanted you to enjoy it exactly where the
Great. So the vineyard is just in front of your house, basically.
Yes.
It's just diagonally across the street.
Yes.
Right?
This is in our area we often have vineyards. They are not around the house or the winery, and in the past was quite normal to have different small pieces in the village or in the closed villages. It's not. Every area has his own evolution, and in Collio usually the house is not always strictly connected to the vineyard.
Okay, so let's taste the wines.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, first of all, tell me about this very strange looking glass over here. Hello. This is very, very odd. It looks like a tea.
A cup is much more connected to the tea ceremony or...
It is. It reminds me basically of the tea ceremony.
I agree. When Josko released the first vintage, the 97, produced fermented on the skins, the glasses, the white wine glasses, were completely different, and were not exactly the best solution for this kind of wine. Skin fermented wines are usually pretty structured and need a little bit bigger glass. For this reason, Josko was made the first glass, which was similar to this one, but with the stem, and it's a glass which was pretty became pretty famous, and a lot of producers started imitate it. The second glass, or better cup, is without stem, because often people serve this wine too cold. Skin fermented wines or natural wines should not be served at exactly white wine temperature. If you serve this wine too cold, the structure gets completely closed, and you would not only the tannic and alcoholic part. Instead, if you serve this wine at a little bit higher temperature, let's say a kind of young red wine temperature, in Celsius is between 14 and 65 Fahrenheit, more or less, the structure will open and will embrace all the components.
So when did he kind of invent this, right? Who makes this, first of all?
These are made by an Italian artisan, Massimo Lunardon, and he's making a lot of particular things, even some artistics, and he's making a lot of stuffs even for very important chefs like the Alaimo brothers, like Crippa has a lot of his glasses at Piazza Duomo. And
but there are a lot of imitations in the market.
There are some,
yes.
But why not?
Yeah.
If an idea
he didn't
is good,
he didn't
it's
patent it.
No.
Yeah.
And when Josko was back from Georgia in 2000, he tasted wines in Georgia in clay cups. And when he was back, one of the things he told was that we have even the wrong glasses. So we had to think about a new glass. And he eventually met Massimo Lunardon because he contacted the most important glass producers, and no one of them was interested in producing a cup because most of them said that at the time the cups are just for elderly, drunken people in the old osterias. It was supposed not to be something in fashion. Massimo Lunardon accepted the idea and started thinking how to make this cup. And after few taste, this is the result we had. Josko always says that before drinking wine, you have to approach it. It's a kind of knowledge you have through your hands, and before drinking then the wine. And
okay, so cheers.
Cheers, Givio.
It doesn't feel as fragile, this one.
No, absolutely not. Despite it's very light, and they are handmade. Sometimes they are not perfect, but we prefer the imperfection made by the humans instead of having all in series.
So tell me a little bit about this wine, this vintage. This is 2012?
Was pretty warm summer, but we started having a lot of rain with the beginning of September. And the main problem was that the minimum temperature was always too high. For this reason, some of the grapes started getting rotten, and we needed to select it deeply during the harvesting. We had even pretty much botrytis, so noble rot. This is something we try to have if possible. The noble rot is something not really known in dry grapes. Most of the dry wines. Most of the people know it in sweet wines, in dessert wines. But what's strange or what's difficult about the botryticized grapes is wines is to have them in completely fermented wines. So it's for many people is something very difficult to be able to identify the botrytis in dry wines. Botrytis is giving this kind of sweetness which is not in our mouth sweet, is a kind of gentleness which is embracing the tannic part.
So let me ask you another cheeky question. In a blind tasting, I always like to ask this question: how would you recognize your wine when it's a series of blind tasting? Let's say you have like 10 wines of Ribolla orange wines, quote unquote. How would you recognize your wine?
Usually through the structure. It's always very important, and then the long aging we have. I told you our wines stay almost 1 year in amphora and 6 years in barrels before being bottled. This allowed the wine to get clean by itself. So the wine is very brilliant. It's clean. You see almost no sediment.
Yeah,
there is no cleaning and there is no filtration.
It's only by the
nature and the time.
Yeah.
And this is, and I think
by settling.
Yes, and This is funny because sometimes some
It's-
natural wine jigs complain that we are
Like,
not.
why is it cloudy,
not really-
right? Why is it so
yes.
clean?
It's so clean that they say that it isn't a real natural wine.
Right.
Why not? It's just a matter of time and working in a proper way.
So it's just by racking that you have this
Yes.
this
And,
clear, clean.
Once the alcoholic fermentation finish, the fermentation finish in amphoras, the skins, they liter by liter, they slowly go down, and they take down most of the sediments. So just with the first racking, we have a pretty clean wine. Which
How many rackings does it go through?
usually, if in a normal situation, 4. In 7 years, 4 or 5. But this is in a normal situation. This is what we.
And the alcoholic content?
It's 14, which is pretty high. But ripe Ribolla, we need ripe.
It doesn't
grapes.
seem it.
No, this is due to the structure. The 2011 we will taste later. It's even more alcoholic, but the structure of the wine is well balanced with everything. So what is happening is that you don't know every single particular, but it's the ensemble which is pleasant, and this is what we.
Yeah, you still have the primaries.
Yes.
And how many bottles did you produce of the 12?
Of the 12 we had 90, a little bit less than 20,000 bottles.
Okay.
The 11.
Okay, let's go to 11
Was-
because I know we're kind of in a time schedule.
The 11 was a little bit bigger vintage, and 11 was extremely particular.
Is it my impression a slightly darker color?
Yes, it is, because the grape were more concentrated. And 11 was a wonderful summer and an incredible harvest. In fall we had very little rain, which doesn't mean it was dry, but the rain was very limited, and we have been able to finish harvesting on November 23rd. This never happened before, and we have been able to follow the moon calendar even for the harvesting. Since the weather was so perfect, it allowed us to really to play with the harvesting. So no botrytis, for noble rot you need to have a little bit more humidity. We hadn't it in 2011, but the ripeness is so rich that the wine is completely different. This is even the reason we have 12 and 11. 12 is a little bit more classical Gravner style, 11 is a little bit more particular. So no botrytis.
So when particular, what do you mean? How does that particular translate into the tasting notes?
Not having botrytis, the tannins are a little bit more evident. The wine seems a little bit more tannic, which means has a little bit more grip, has a little bit more less gentleness, has even more alcohol.
The alcohol you definitely feel on this
Yes.
one.
But the structure you see, it's not so gentle. It's a little bit. I always say it's like a teenager. It's still in evolution, and in few years will become a little bit more gentle. But at the time, it's still like a teenager who doesn't exactly know where and how to behave, but I need a little bit more time to. This is one of the funny things with our wines. 2011 is supposed not to be very young. It's now 10 years old, but it's still very, very young.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like because of the tannic structure and because of course the alcohol, this can age longer.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Usually we feel pretty comfortable in preserving our wines for 20-25 years. With the 2011, 30-35 should be more
Wow.
okay. Yes. But this is, when you produce something, I think the best idea is if you are able to preserve it for a long period. It's something you can enjoy today, but you can even forget these bottles in your cellar for many years with no worries, because if you open it in 10 years, in 20 years, the wine will be different, of course, because there is an evolution even in the bottle, but it's always a positive surprise. This should wine be. We believe that it's very important to respect other people's time and money. When people buy our wines, they give us their money, and giving us money means that they offer us their time, and we have to respect it. Giving a perfect product, product which freedom means that they can choose when to enjoy wine. It's not compulsory they have to preserve the bottle for the next 5 years before enjoying it, or it's not forbidden for them to have it in their cellar for decades.
But for drinking today, which one would you prefer, the 12?
It depends on what we eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Okay, so give me your best food pairing for the Gravner Ribolla.
The 12 even with a rich salad, soup, with some, even a caprese with good tomatoes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Caprese with the 12?
Yeah.
That's
with
interesting.
The 11, I would search something a little bit more structured. I had few weeks ago deer with trout eggs.
Trout eggs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would never. We were all ready with the red wine.
Mm-hmm.
We all went back to the Ribolla.
That's interesting.
So Ribolla doesn't.
Because of the structure,
yes.
it acts as a
Yes.
like a red wine.
Yes, Ribolla is not doesn't need a perfect pairing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to pair with a lot of different things. Maybe as aperitif is not the best
No,
choice,
yeah.
special the 11. But you can pair it with really a lot of different things. And this is interesting because really from salad up to cheese is something.
So let me ask you a question. Do you drink wine every day?
No, not exactly every day.
No.
I'm really afraid about this because
I drink wine every day.
Sometimes I try not to have wine
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I have seen when I was younger that often producers don't know how easy they get addicted if you drink every day, and I'm really scared about this. So
Right. I think the same is true for the wine professionals, to be
Yes,
quite honest.
Yes, and for
You
this
know?
reason I try not to have wine every day. It's
That's
not
it.
always easy, but okay, I leave
that's
it over.
interesting. And do you have your wine every day, or do you have other types of wine?
Usually our or what we have at home.
Right.
So sometimes we have some open bottles, or if we have to decide, then it depends. Sometimes friends bring us wines, sometimes we buy something. So we check, we try, we compare. It's not a kind of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about, I prefer this one. Maybe something you really liked today, tomorrow you are bored about, and you get away a few days later. So it's just having so much options. It's quite easy to get bored. So we are probably a bit spoiled people.
So, Matteo, I want to ask you one last question before we go for our listeners. So you have an Instagram account.
Yes.
And I'm not saying every day or every post, but you have the same window, right? Tell us the story behind that.
This is the first thing I see when I wake up in the morning, and I started.
When did you start?
I don't know exactly. I guess maybe 3 years ago.
But you're
something like
famous because you have the cypress
Yes.
trees with the little window and
the window is a kind of window through where I see the world, and it's the beginning of my day, and it's always the same, but it's always different. And since I started noting how same different was every day, I started posting it, not caring really a lot at the beginning, and a lot of people are writing me, I miss your window, because it's a kind of diary.
Yeah, it's
saying
your personal
what
diary.
is happening, and it's for sure it's when it's snowing, when it's winter, but the seasons are not always the same. This year spring come later. Last year we had an incredibly warm and pleasant spring, so it started like something funny for myself, And now it's a kind of appointment.
Yeah, like a ritual,
have, yes.
right? I think it's really lovely because we kind of get to know you through literally your view of your window. And I think it's a lovely way to also engage, your followers. And every once in a while I'll say, let me see what Matea's doing today. What is the window looking like today?
And often people coming to visit us, one of the first things they ask is,
where's the window? Which window?
Is, yeah. Or they come, I guess this is the window. So this is funny.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you for sharing your very busy morning with us.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you very, very soon, here or there, everywhere. And thank you also for all the great work that you're doing for
Thank
Italian
you for
wine.
visiting. It was impossible to say no because, I follow you. No, you are, I think we have to help each other. When you find people, they are really engaged, they really do their best. They find different ways to communicate. I think this is something we have to support. This is good for everyone. It's really not so important which kind of wine you are doing. When you work well, it's not to say I am doing it well, but when you find people so deeply and so strongly connected with the wine, I think we have to support each other. My little support was just this morning, but it's...
Well, thank you for supporting us and Italian wine, promotion, education. Also, you give us your wine for also the Vinitaly International Academy, and you've been following us and supporting us. So thank you very much for, and definitely chin chin with Italian wine people.
Cin
Okay?
cin, Givia.
Alla prossima.
Alla prossima.
Grazie mille. Ciao ragazzi.
Now back to the office, getting ready for that Zoom fatigue once again, mapping out our next wine tasting, winery visit, and more importantly, wine people. So, chin chin with Italian wine people.